Kansas City Chiefs do just enough to fend off the Baltimore Ravens and come away with a victory in what was maybe the most highly anticipated football game of the weekend. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, all the stats, all the numbers, about 7 touchdowns and no interceptions. And first time in 50 years that two quarterbacks had played each other since, the Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings, Fran Tarkenton and Craig Morton. Those two guys had played each other in a football game where they had both thrown 7 touchdown passes and no interceptions going into the contest. The Baltimore Ravens came out and just had a phenomenal look on offense. They were calculated, they were confident, they were physical. They did exactly what they wanted, when they wanted. And I loved the fact that on the first drive, down inside the red zone, they said, you know what, we're going to go for it on 4th and 2. They go for it on 4th and 2. They get it. They score the touchdown. And then right afterwards, when the field goal goes through, but there was a penalty, they decided, you know what, we're going to place this thing on the 1-yard line and we're going to go for 2. Now, they didn't get it. They got stopped. But I love the idea of, you know what, we're here. We're in your backyard, and we're going to go for the gusto. Matter of fact, we're not just going to go for the gusto. I'm showing you that I came to win this football game, and not just win this football game, but I'm here to kick your ass. But then a shift happened, and we saw Mahomes and the Chiefs be Mahomes and the Chiefs. And then it was almost like Harbaugh, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, got scared and went for it on 4th and 2 from his own 30-yard line. Then on the same drive, went for it on 4th down again at their own 45-yard line. That was about the time when I thought, that's not how you win a football game. I didn't really have a problem with it on the first drive because of situational football. The difference in the second drive was it almost looked like Harbaugh was scared. Before, it was, we're going to prove that we're more man than you. Because that defense was getting after Patrick Mahomes. They were knocking him around. Yeah, they had the horse collar, and yeah, they had the late hit on Mahomes. So 2 penalties on one drive, and Kansas City did what they were supposed to do, and that's when you get 30 yards in penalties, finish with a score. But the Ravens were playing intimidating football, and they were lining up, and they were saying, yeah, go ahead and throw it down the field, but you're going to do it with us in your face the whole game. But then Kansas City adjusted their pass protection. They forced Baltimore to alter what they were doing defensively. And for the next couple of quarters, they looked again like one of the best teams in all the NFL. But then another switch happened, and Baltimore started being able to run the football. Baltimore started being able to do things from the line of scrimmage that made them look like a premier team, and it showed off their balance. Because Lamar Jackson did not have the best game. Even on that initial scoring drive, I think at one point he was, 3 out of 7 throwing the football on that first drive. So even though it was a really good, long, sustained drive, it actually ended up being a symptom of what he was going to be able to accomplish for the entire football game. Now, ultimately, here's the thing about the Kansas City Chiefs that I've been talking about since probably 2014. And that is, in these big games, I don't really think that they play a full game of football. When I initially talked about the Kansas City Chiefs, when I did my preseason preview, I discussed this once again. I talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers game last year. I talked about the LA Rams game last year. I talked about the AFC Championship game against the New England Patriots, and we saw it again. I did not like the way Kansas City finished that fourth quarter. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Baltimore had their chances regardless, and I understand that a lot of people don't think they should have went for 2 when they made it 30-19. But here's the thing. I actually agreed with that call, and I'll tell you why. Because it is a 9-point game now. And so what you're doing is you're telling your defense, hey, if we get this, we need you to stop them, because now we can get a touchdown and a field goal and win the game even if they get some more points on the board, which they did, they only scored a field goal there afterwards, we could still make the game a little bit easier for us to win. Because now you'd have been looking at 33-32 and a field goal, or 33-31, pardon me, and a field goal still could have won them the football game at 34-33. So for the most part, I understand Harbaugh's mentality behind what he did. I think it was Howard Schnellenberger, though, who did say this, that when you try to do a lot of gimmicky things, when you constantly go for it on fourth down, you can't beat somebody like that, and you show that you're a little bit afraid. At first, like I said, it looked like he was being intimidating. Later on, it looked like he was afraid. Then, to me, it was smart. And I don't like the way Kansas City finished that football game, both offensively and defensively at all. I know Harbaugh is going to take a lot of hell thrown his direction. People are going to look at it and say, well, if you wouldn't have gone for two, it would have been 30-20, and then you got that other touchdown and yada, yada, yada. Look, folks, football is a game of risk. I don't know if you know this or not, right? Weren't there a lot of people who just got done, including myself, bagging on Notre Dame and some people Georgia for being conservative? Didn't people say that Super Bowl between L.A. and New England was one of the most boring Super Bowls they had ever seen because both teams were playing too conservatively? Football is a game of risk, and I like the approach because it was a playoff-type approach by Jim Harbaugh. It just wasn't always fitting in every situation. In terms of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, look, ultimately, I think that they did what we all expect them to do at this point. Rack up some points. Mahomes is going to throw for hundreds of yards. He's going to make throws that make you say, wow. He's going to be off of his back foot. He's going to have a guy in his face. He's going to be scrambling. He's going to be throwing the ball cross-body across the field. He's going to drop dimes. He's going to show off the arm strength and put it in the air. He's going to do all those things. We're almost to a point where we may be getting numb with how good Patrick Mahomes is. We're still the jury's still kind of out on Lamar Jackson, right? I said in my preseason that I think he's a better quarterback than people give him credit for. But this was kind of a showing, right? This is a step in the process. I'm on the road. I'm facing a good football team. How do I respond? Sometimes there is, I'll get him next time. I know a lot of people live by the motto, there is no tomorrow. It's not that situation right now. Is this a symptom of what's to come for Baltimore? Look, again, this is one of the divisions that I thought was supposed to be the best in all the NFL. But so far, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, they've all had very shaky starts, obviously. Baltimore was very impressive, but they beat a Miami Dolphins team that right now other teams in the league are using as basically a tune-up game at this point. So we'll kind of see as the season goes. Do I think Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback long term? If you were to ask me that question right now, I would say yes. Regardless of the average performance that he had today, I would still say yes to that. The best thing that he can do is go and look at the film and grow from this. As far as the Kansas City Chiefs go, like I said, you got to play a full 4 quarters. If that's Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, I don't think that they lose it or win that football game. I think they figure out a way to lose it again in the fourth quarter, which is where Andy Reid teams have struggled a lot through the course of his career. Remember, he had the same rap on him in Philly. Off to a slow start, him and Donovan McNabb, they'd get off to a slow start, and then they would do well, and that sort of became them all the way up until they finally made it to a Super Bowl. And slow start, and then all of a sudden they were able to score, and then they got the ball back with a couple of minutes left to go in the football game, and they weren't able to pull through. That Indianapolis Colts playoff game, that Tennessee Titans playoff game, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but those are just a few examples of this team not starting how they finish or finishing strong after a poor start. But again, in the AFC Championship game, 3 quarters of mediocre football before they finally showed up in the fourth. Got to figure out a way to sustain for an entire football game. I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan83. You can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. Full Court Press is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube as well. And don't forget, we are wherever you listen to podcasts. Simply tell your device to play the Full Court Press by Drew Duncan. And as always, don't you dare touch that dial.